Okay, hey guys. I wanted to recap from lesson 1 and lesson 2 before I continue to lesson 3. So recap was that we made sure that we have the output pins. This is going to be later on in the code during the lessons, but these are the output pins for your Arduino. So we make sure that they are constant integer int because we don't want these to never change throughout the code. So as you can see here, we're going to be dealing with seconds, minutes, and hours throughout this clock. So we make sure that these are int so we can be able to edit these throughout the code. And I set it to a certain variable now, but in the code we're gonna for lesson 3 we're gonna make a code so we can set the time before it starts the clock up. Just as you had an old alarm clock, you unplug it, you plug it back in, it'll blink off the minutes, hours, and seconds, or minutes and hours, so you can set the time. So that's basically what we're going to be doing. So from last lesson, we set up the serial monitor. The serial monitor can be found over here in this right hand corner. Serial monitor is just a display while you're doing a code, so you can be able to debug while you're doing a code. This is what I use for debugging because Arduino doesn't really have a debug, so you can't put like a pause instead of typing pause. You can't put a pause in the code, so I use the serial monitor to check my code. Okay, so these are just showing that those pins on our Arduinos are set to outputs and not inputs. And so, alright, so from last lesson we made the code for it to update the seconds, minutes, and hours. So right now we have a while loop for the seconds, because we want to make sure that these are the only ones that's really increasing. So every time the second increase, then something else. When the seconds reach its max, then we wanted to go ahead and update the minutes and hours. So there's one thing that I did not do. I checked and I noticed, but I'll show you later what I did. So the delay is supposed to count every second, then do the then display the seconds. So now we have make sure that this is delaying for 1,000. So that's for every second. So but we sped it up a little bit so we can be able to show it throughout the demonstration a little faster. Because a second takes a very long time. So right now we have the serial monitor printing the output value of hours, and output value of minutes, and output value of seconds. Print, you make sure that if you're doing a variable, you don't have to do the quotations, but if you're want to print something off, I have a space in between, so we have the number, space, and then a colon, and then minute, space, colon, and then the seconds, and then I have the new line. So basically at the end of you printing seconds, we want a new line so you can do it over again. After the seconds reach 59, we want to make sure that the seconds restarts. This was just debugging. We don't really need that right now. So actually we'll keep that. No. We don't really need that. So after the seconds hit, it's gonna go into this if statement. If the minutes is less than 59, basically once it reaches that hour, we want to increase that minute. So when it reaches that 59 minutes, then we want to make sure that it's set back to 0, and then the hours is increased by 12, and then the hours at less than 12, it'll increase when it's less than 12, but once it reaches 12, it'll start over. So I'm gonna see if I don't care. So I want to see if the code to show you an example of what I was talking about. So I've made sure that the code was confirmed and it worked, so I uploaded to my Arduino. Make sure you always have your Arduino set. We are not doing any hardware right now, so this is all software. So I'm gonna restart this. So as you can see, we're showing, alright, so we're showing the seconds increasing. This is the hours, the minutes, and the seconds. So as you can see, there is a mistake in the code. When I mean mistake in the code, we are not showing 0 seconds, and we're not showing 0 seconds before it starts and before the next minute. So as you can see here, next minute is hitting, then a 1 second mark is hitting. So we want to show the minute, second. Get it? So to change this code is just simple. So we're starting off with 0 seconds. So before we increase the seconds, we want to just increase it at the end. So we want to show 0 seconds, then increase it. Now this will go back to 59. This will never show 59 then. So we will have to set this to equal 59. So greater than or equal to 59. So you can do it that way. So I can show you the difference between the two. Oh, that is my fault. Greater than or equal to. That should work. Yep. Alright, so we uploaded to our Arduino. So I'm going to show you the difference between the two. So showed 0 seconds. So once we get to 59 is our question mark. So you see the minute, the second, the hour, the minute, and the second, then an increase to the 1 minute mark, then 0 seconds. So that's just the way of the order of your code. That's really simple. It's not that bad. So the one other thing is that we want it to increase the second after a second had already passed. So so that's that. If there's any questions, please leave that below before I start the next portion of the code. Okay. All right. So we're gonna save this. All right. So now we're gonna move on to lesson 3. Lesson 3 is setting the time. I already have that finished. I'm just gonna show you guys what I did, so it'll be a little bit easier for you to understand. Open up for me. All right, so this is lesson 3. I'm gonna show you how to set the time once the Arduino is plugged in. Whenever it restarts, you can press the restart button on your Arduino, or you can just disconnect the power. So whenever these two things happen, this is going to be that setup. So this is only if you don't have a clock module on your Arduino, which is a simple thing to buy and purchase. A clock module will just keep up with the time once you set it one time. So it'll keep counting without any power or anything, and it'll set the time for you automatically. So this is just in case you don't have it. I thought this would be an easier way so you can get to know a little bit more coding instead of having hardware do all the work for you. I hate these pop-ups. Don't show me this message again. Okay, cool. So so everything from the top up is the same. Oh, from this section is the same. So the only thing we added was new variables, which is int temp. We made it as an empty space. So basically it's more of a how would I explain this? I'm using the temp to read what the input is from the serial monitor. Later on we can change this to just a random variable, but now I honestly don't even need to do it like that. I can honestly do it, keep it like that, or I can set it to 0, which doesn't really mean anything to me. So for this code, I have if you look at your number pad on your laptop or computer, you can see that 8, let's see, for the serial monitor, I have 8 equals increase, and 1 equals done. So if you look on your number pad, 8 has an up arrow, so I made it simple, and then 1 meaning end, so that means you're done setting the minutes or setting the hours, move on to the next basically. So the minutes and the hours is the only thing we need to set, because seconds will always start at 0. So like right now it's 12:56, so I'm gonna try to finish the explanation before 1 o'clock so it could be easier for us to set the time. So alright, so the end loop, I like to use variables to do while loops. So like end loop, I use it as a step function. So basically I use it like my own type of step function. So when the while loop equals 1, so I have it set to 0, so so I have a while loop that says while end loop is equal to 0, do this. That means we're on step 0. And then I will have, once I'm done with that while loop or whatever it comes to an end, set end while loop to 1, meaning we're going on to the next step, which is step 1. So that's how I use it as. You don't have to do it this way. If you find a simpler way to do it or an easier way, go ahead. I don't mind. So alright, so the next step, as you can see, serial monitor is next. I changed the print statement to hello 90, please set time, just so I know that serial monitor is on. And then the outputs are the same. We're going to use that later on in the code, as I explained earlier. Alright, so this is what I added in. While serial monitor is not available, we don't want it to do anything. So we basically wanted to, hey, when it's available, then take my input, you know. So now we have set time. Make sure you write comments so you can know which part of the code you're at. So this is at set time. So if you go back up to the loop, void setup. Remember when I explained this in the first lesson, void setup only happens once. Once it leaves void setup, it's never going to come back to this. So that's why I have set time in a void setup. So it could be easier. So it can only do it once. You ain't never got to do it again. So at the startup of the code, setup time, then run the clock. So I thought that would be easier. So you can do it in your loop and just make sure that your void loop never goes back to that setup. So I just usually put it in setup. I have the end loop. While end loop is 0, because we already have it at 0, we're gonna set the minutes first. So I have temp and looking at the input from the serial monitor. So in the serial monitor, I have a little bar at the top saying, hey, input something here. So I can show you guys that real quick. So right here, it'll have a little bar up here and it'll say send. So this is when you put your input in. So basically I'm telling you, hey, take my input, set it as temp. So as I said before, temp 8 is meaning increase the minutes. So because it has an up arrow. So when I put an 8 in, that means I want to increase the minutes. And once minutes equals 60, go back to 0. So this will take a long process if you're at like 59. I really hate it. So you gotta keep pressing the number, pressing the set time button or hold it. You can increase it to 59. So I'm trying to make sure that I make it to 1 o'clock so it can be easier for us to set the time. So we're gonna increase the minutes every time I press 8. If the minutes equals 60, go back to 0. All right. And I put a little note here, meaning show the board what the number is. That could be less than 4. We're gonna basically do the hardware next after the coding, so that'll be less than 6. So less than 5, we're gonna make functions so it can set that LED on, so you can know what time it's on, because we won't have the computer to set the time. So you're going to be looking at LEDs to know what you're pressing. And up here I have flash minutes to indicate that we're setting the minutes time. So I put comments in here so I know where to place certain things in here so it can be easier for me to go back. And then I have the serial monitor showing minutes equals space, and then showing what the minutes are, and then a new line afterwards. So that could be a little easier. Then I have temp 1. If you look at your number pad again, meaning end or done with setting the minutes. Once that is in, then we're done with this loop and we're going to step 1. And then we're basically breaking from this while loop. Both of them, doing both is unnecessary. But if you just want to do a while loop and just a while, and then you want to end the while loop, you can just put a break in there and it'll just exit out of that loop. Or you can just do what I did and have a variable and just change it once you're done with it. So I put them both in there so you can be able to see that you can be able to use both. Alright, and so the good thing about these codes, copy and paste is your friend. So the setting the minutes is the exact same thing. Oh, I didn't change my comments. So setting the hours is the exact same thing because they both go up to they both increase at a certain rate. So the set hours go up to 12, minutes go up to 59. So in temp 8, the same thing, increase. All I did was just change the max of the hours and what I want to set it back to. If you're doing 24 hours, you do max is equal to 24, 24, and then you set the going back to reset is 0. So that's good. And everything else is the exact same thing. So if that's explainable, I can set the hours to 0 so we can know. We're gonna check the code. Set the code. Okay. So we're gonna open up the serial monitor. As hello Nadi, please set time. Okay. So we're gonna input 8 in here because we want to set the minutes. Oops. Right now it is 103. So I'm gonna do 104 just in case I don't make it in time. Once I'm done with minutes, go back to end. So now I'm on to hours. So it's 1 o'clock, so we're gonna do 1, and then we're gonna end that. Oops. Then it's gonna start automatically. So once you're done with the hours, it's just gonna start it up and go from what we had on lesson 2. And that's mainly it. Just so you know, make sure that you change your delay time so it can slow it down with the exact same seconds, because right now we have it at 100 milliseconds and you want it at 1,000 milliseconds. 1,000 milliseconds equals a second. Alright, so if you have any questions, this was a quick lesson. It wasn't really that bad, but if you have any questions, please let me know and I can explain anything more if you have any other questions. Alright, thanks guys.